welcome to Weekly Reddit, and in today's episode of r/Tales from Tech Support, things just didn't click right away. User worked for hours on $1 contract and never once saved it. I do not accept the $4,000 equipment. What browser are you using? HP. Crazy lady breaks 3 PCs to avoid work before upper management will do anything about it. Things just didn't click right away. Let me start off by saying that the dollar user is a great guy who is always very respectful of my time and always conveys sincerity in his thanks of all the times I have helped him. I would do anything to help him out anytime. So I get a call last night from dollar user that his laptop is having issues and is very slow and unresponsive. This is a fairly new laptop that he has only had for 2 months or so. Dollar user indicates that it was working fine until earlier in the day when it started to get worse. I walk him through some things, and from his description is that when he logs in everything is completely unresponsive. I guess that it is a corrupt profile and have him log into the local admin account which exhibits the same behavior. I ask him if he is going to be in the office the following morning, and it turns out he is quarantined due to his entire family having COVID. I let him know that since it is completely unresponsive that there isn't much I can do at that time. I let him know that I will get a new one set up for him and run it out to his house first thing in the AM. I don't mind getting paid for a nice quiet drive to break up a Wednesday. I get into the office and set up his new laptop, sync his OneDrive and test it out real quick. Everything is fine, so I drive it out to his house and leave it out for him to grab. I wasn't about to take the old one due to COVID risk and told him to call me if he has any issues. 5 minutes later I get a call that it is doing the same thing. I walk him through a bunch of stuff over the phone while driving back to the office, but it sounds like it's doing the same thing. I'm racking my brain trying to figure out what is in common, so I had him remove the docking station from the equation, which has no effect. I let dollar user know that he'll be in the office in 10 minutes and we can try to do a remote session. I walk him through trying to get connected to Wi-Fi, which took 10 more minutes. Once he was connected, I remoted into the computer and everything seemed completely normal, which he even commented that it seemed normal for me. I have him give it another try and he can't click on anything very well, so I ask him to use the trackpad buttons and lo and behold it works fine. What he was perceiving as delay was just the mouse not registering click due to what I assume was a faulty left mouse button switch. Right button worked fine. He was so embarrassed, but happy to be up and running on his normal machine. We just chalked it up to COVID making things 1000x more difficult, because had I been able to see the machine it would have been resolved in 3 seconds. User worked for hours on $1 contract and never once saved it. This was back in the mid-80s, when computers were just starting to be widespread in business. Autosave was a thing of the very near future, but not here yet. I was a secretary at a law firm and got transferred to the newly created IT department. I did training, setups, and troubleshooting, and I reported to a newly hired but experienced IT manager. One attorney was having a meltdown because her computer froze and she had been working all morning on a contract for a multi-million-dollar project. I said, no problem. We can do a reset and restore it from the last time you saved it. I should add here that everything was saved on each person's hard drive. She said she hadn't had time to save it, and kept screaming at me to get it back. Hadn't saved it. Not once. A multi-million-dollar deal. Worked on it for hours. Didn't have time to save it. When I broke the news that there wasn't a damn thing we could do, I thought she was quite literally going to have a stroke. She was screaming so loud that someone called my boss, who listened to her spit-flecked tantrum. When he heard her say that she hadn't once saved this so important document, he said, "You didn't save it. It's gone. What do you want me to do, Carol? Wave my magic wand to get it back? Get it back from where?" I loved that man for that. To this day, I'm still astounded that this woman, who had 4 years of college, and another 2 to 3 years of law school, didn't have the common sense to save her work periodically as it progressed, and then screamed at people who were only trying to help her. I do not accept the $4,000 equipment. Hi to everyone. This is a story that happened to me about 2-3 weeks earlier. I work at Redacted company in their IT department. I was preparing 4 computers and earphones for users. I know why pay so much for crap like that? When it starts. Cast. Me. Weld up. DH. D head / douche / Mr. / nice guy, and whatever negative naming you can think of. YL, young lady and nice user. Here is the story. The first user comes in and is polite, says hello and waits patiently while giving small talk while we finish setting up her laptop with her account. Her appointment was supposed to take 1 hour, but with the current world conditions and protocols needing to change every week, it took 2.5 hours. When the clock hits 10:45 a.m., DH comes in, 45 minutes late I should say, and asks for his appointment to start. No hello or nothing. I being with the other user, I ask him with my best customer service face if he minds waiting for me to finish with Bill and then we can start. He nods and starts chatting with her. I don't mind and continue doing my job. As Apple systems are not the best on the market, an update needed to be installed that day on earphones and took longer than what was planned. In the meantime they take a coffee and I prepare his iPhone since it would be better to start with the longest to configure. After her computer is finished and her phone is done, I ask her to come in and hand over the devices, and she gives me a look of thank God you finished and help me escape the asshole. Then I leave him in the office for 1 minute to accompany him to the door, company policy. When I get back I get on the brand new earphones out of the safe and, before I even start removing the protecting plastic, I hear, "I don't want it." I am sorry, what? I don't want it. If it were an iPhone 11 or 12 at least I would say yes, but no. Not that crap. I understand the point of view where earphones are not favored among certain circles, but this iPhone was in no way crap. Granted. This model, iPhone SE 2020, is not the best on the market nor the latest, but host companies use the same for one simple reason: users are like kids, they break everything. So like the French say, you do not give pearls to pigs. Users have a right to refuse hardware handed over to them by the company, but this puts them in a risky situation. If they refuse everything the company lends, they are not allowed to do their work on a personal device, since this is a security breach, and in doing so they are submitting themselves to termination for breach of contract and safety protocols. Then I take out the 2018 edition of MacBook Pro 15-inch, around $3,000 in itself, and start it to prepare his account on the computer. I don't want it. You don't want it? The computer? No. I refuse to receive this computer. I want that one, pointing to my company computer in testing phase 2019 edition of the same computer. I can't give you that one. I want this one. I can't give you this model as I do not have any in stock. Added to this, the only difference on the computer is the keyboard, slightly more travel distance on the 2019 edition, more comfortable to the touch, and the screen, 1 inch bigger. I refuse the one you have in hand. Okay then. Could you please confirm in front of my colleagues acting as witnesses, that you refuse to receive service as the hardware you should receive is not according to your wishes? Yes, I refuse to receive the hardware. Then he leaves fuming with anger coming out of nowhere. Bill, myself and my colleagues are speechless as to what just happened. Who, TF, does that? Who? When you start in a company you use whatever hardware they give you. The funniest though came later. He left the company. He apparently left a resigning letter on the boss's desk with the following reason for his resigning: I received a bad service in IT, a lack of respect and abuse. The actual reason of his resignation was actually the boss asking for the resignation or him being fired. Either have his honor intact or lose it properly and duly. Worst and funniest intervention and user I ever had. When I look back on it, I have a nice story to tell my children. What browser are you using? HP. So I got this call a little while ago. Me. Thank you for calling university's IT help desk. This is me, how can I help you? Caller, I can't get into my classroom meeting. Me, okay, what kind of error are you getting? Caller, yes. Me, maybe they misheard me, what error message are you getting? Caller, yes. Me, okay, why don't you try to log in and tell me what it says? Caller, it says to open up the app or connect with browser. Me, do you have the app? Caller, no. Me, okay, try to connect to the meeting using your browser, so select the browser option. Caller, it says authorization failure. Me, what browser are you using? Caller, HP. Me, no, what web browser are you using, like Chrome, Firefox, Edge? Caller, HP. Me, okay, so HP is not a browser, so which one are you using? Caller, after keyboard strokes, Chrome. Me, okay, I'm gonna walk you through clearing your cache and cookies. After clearing cache and cookies, they logged in and were instantly connected. Never thought someone would say HP for a browser, but here we are. Crazy lady breaks 3 PCs to avoid work before upper management will do anything about it. Disclaimer: this office was not at all cold. Nowhere near cold enough to need a space heater. There's always one lady that has to have one. First ticket for insane lady: desktop keeps overheating and shutting down. I am behind on work and missing deadlines because of this repeating issue that has resulted in lost work. She had a space heater under her desk pointing directly at the desktop. Because her feet get too cold in the office, I removed the unapproved heater, ran tests, the desktop was fine. Checked the event logs and it had only ever shut down, crashed once from overheating. I explained that I only show one shutdown from overheating. Explain that you can't expect a PC to not overheat when heated. Made notes in the ticket, delivered the space heater to facilities manager. She raised a big stink with her manager, who talked with the facilities manager and had the heater returned with an facilities approval tag. They didn't involve me at all, and the unit was placed exactly back in same spot. Second ticket for insane lady: very next day, desktop is overheating again. I cannot continue to work like this. Fix it or replace my desktop with a laptop. I show up and see the heater right back where it was. MFW, what.gif? Desktop is off, and actual hardware damage was done to the motherboard this time. I replace it with a spare desktop of same make /model. I route all cabling and place desktop on desktop so it won't melt from space heater. She complains how their small form factor desktop takes up too much room on her double-sized cubicle desk space and she should have a laptop. I explain that I didn't have a laptop available, and it actually takes up less space than a laptop anyhow once you factor in docking station. I explain again that the space heater killed the previous machine, and it should not be placed next to a heat source. I CC her manager on the ticket. I also let my manager know about the whole deal at this point because both cases were totally avoidable. Third ticket for insane lady: 2 days later on a Friday, new desktop is overheating and shutting down just like last one. I am weeks behind on project work at this point. Please give me a laptop that won't have this type of problem. I show up right after the ticket was created. She was packing up her stuff to leave and looked put out that I even showed up so soon to deal with the issue. The desktop was on the floor next to the space heater. I asked her why she moved it back there after killing the previous desktop, and after clearly explaining that it caused the problem. She wasn't having it, said it took up too much room and she should have a laptop anyhow. This time the desktop wouldn't even post. I noticed the heater was on the highest possible setting and was aimed directly at the PC this time. There was something about how visibly annoyed she was that I was going to fix it, like she was ready to take an early weekend since she couldn't work anyway. I explained I would have a replacement ready within 30 minutes. More to gauge her reaction than anything, and she looked even madder. Is it going to be a laptop? I don't see a replacement being worth it if it's just going to melt under my desk again. I agreed. Under your desk is probably a bad idea. If she wanted a laptop, she would have to get her boss to approve the purchase of one. I took the dead desktop and brought back a replacement desktop. We got loads of spare used stock. Within 20 minutes, she was gone. CubeMates said she left for the day since IT wouldn't have a replacement ready anyhow. I documented everything in the ticket, called my manager. Manager didn't seem to care at all. He did stress that I was not to give her a laptop replacement unless her department approved and paid for it though. I was busy enough that this pissed me off. I walked over to HR and explained the situation so far to the HR rep. She said she would take to the user's manager about it. I didn't expect much. Sure enough, the following Monday, I had a ticket to deploy a brand new laptop to the user. Since the space heater was under the desk, and the way the cubicle desks were built, there was a space behind the tops for cable routing. This meant the majority of hot air from the heater would vent right up that space, which would feed directly into the air intake on the docking stations. Since that was the case, I deployed the docking station, laptop, etc. to the right of her monitor instead of the left where it would get hit with the heat. Once again she complained about it taking up too much room there. Can't we put it on the other side? I once again explained that heat will kill a laptop twice as fast as the two desktops she already killed. After closing out the ticket, I sent an email to her and xed her manager, my manager, and the HR lady. I explained the problems the space heater had caused, and that it was her refusal to listen that had caused damage to multiple pieces of company property. I let her know that moving the laptop to the other side of her desk would very likely damage the brand new laptop and it should not be done, and would result in further delays in her ability to finish her projects. Fourth ticket from insane lady 2 days later. Laptop will not turn on. Leaving for the day. Please fix or replace. It was 10 AM on Wednesday. She wasn't there. Laptop was moved to left side of desk, space heater still on full blast. Pointing backwards. Without touching anything, I called the facilities guy. He agreed that the heater shouldn't have ever been returned. Agreed that this woman could have burned down the whole goddamn building. Brand new laptop was toast. Took photos of everything. Emailed her boss, xed HR and my manager. Apparently her manager didn't even know she left for the day. She was 2 weeks behind on a big project, kept blaming IT for messing up her schedule with PCs that didn't work. I pulled the drive, dumped all the data, was able to easily show she hadn't done any work for said project at all in the last month. Never saw an inane lady again after that. Much stricter rules were put in place for space heaters after that, so at least I dealt with less overheating issues. It's just frustrating that I could tell pretty quickly she was full of shit, but couldn't really do anything about it.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up with the best content from Reddit.